All right, the House Intel Committee Chairman Devin Nunes, he blasted the Justice Department yesterday during an interview claiming that some within the DOJ, they're hoping Republicans will actually lose the House in the midterm elections. He also said that if there was evidence the Russians were colluding with the Trump campaign in 2016, Congress would have been briefed on it at the time, which they were not. Now, remember, it was Chairman Nunes back in 2014. He sounded the alarm about Russia's malicious intent to cause chaos around the world and, yeah, in our very own elections. Here now is the House Intel Committee Chair, Devin Nunes. So with all this talk about meddling and interference, it happened at least in 2008. It happened in 2012. You warned the Obama administration very publicly in 2014, and now we're supposed to act surprised that it all happened, although, you know, it was under Barack Obama's watch, not Donald Trump.
Yeah, Sean, look, I think I warned them not just in 2014, but very specifically in 2016, where I called it the largest intelligence failure since 9/11, our failure to understand Putin's plans and intentions. And remember, by that time, we had seen the Russians actively involved in many elections around the globe. So they were actively trying to interfere in elections in Eastern Europe and some of the former Soviet states. So this was nothing new at all. And what I'm most upset about in this whole situation of many things, but when you go back to that time period, is how they were able to ignore the warnings that we were sending from the House Intelligence Committee. And then, lo and behold, after they lost the election, they first tried to blame fake news, and then when that didn't work, they switched it into this whole concept of Russia.
So this is a big point, too, is that if there were any collusion, certainly you would have known about it at the time. And if anything had come out between now and then, you would have seen that, as you have seen almost everything. So the question is, well, why is the witch hunt going on? And how do you look at the Mueller indictments, then, of these 12 Russians that are the equivalent of our CIA operatives? They're never coming to America. There's never going to be a trial. Mueller, you know, indicted these bot companies thinking they'd never respond. Now he's asking the judge in that case if they could literally not turn over any documents. In other words, that there won't be any disclosure.
Well, and remember, so it's not just about the warnings that I gave in 2014, 15, and 16. It is also a fact that a year and a half ago, the House Intelligence Committee had more than what's in the Mueller indictment of the 12 Russian officers. Okay, so we had more information than that. Now, and we put it in our report in March. It was in our report that was made public in April. It's heavily redacted, remember, by the Department of Justice and FBI. But we had all this information. And so, you know, the thing that I brought up is I just find the timing of this to be very hard to believe, right?
Yeah.
You might give them the benefit of the doubt, but why does this always happen? Every time something happens on one side where we find out a new revelation about what appears to be real problems in the FBI and DOJ with this investigation, then all of a sudden they drop an indictment. It's happened time and time and again, and this one is really bad.
So this is what I want to ask you. Do you think they're trying to literally, as you said, that you believe the FBI and DOJ, they're obstructing in terms of doing what is what your authority constitutionally is oversight, and they have been obstructing the entire way. And now there's talk about actually impeaching Rod Rosenstein, and there's talk about holding these people in contempt. And you say they're really doing this, hoping the Dems take over Congress and that it all ends then?
It's the oldest trick in the book. So many of the bureaucracies here in Washington know how to wait out Congress. They know to try to plan meetings on a Friday when they know there's not votes, or on a Monday when there's not votes. That's the time that they want to give things. They wait. They know that Congress is going to adjourn next week. And so the more that they delay for no reason, we're waiting on many documents, as you know. We're getting very slow, snail-paced cooperation that is clearly designed to wait until next week when Congress adjourns. Now, I have news for them. they're still going to get to come in and give depositions. They may think they're not going to, but they're going to be coming in to give depositions throughout the summer, and that's part of the 42 names that I sent to Chairman Gowdy and Chairman Goodlatte. So I have every expectation that there will be many opportunities for these 42 individuals to come to Congress, even though they have tried to wait us out. And I think they'd love to see Republicans lose. And I say that, I hate to say that, but I have to believe that the Department of Justice and FBI, the people at the leadership, they are banking on a loss by the Republicans in the fall, which is why people have to understand how important it's going to be to get out and vote in this election to ensure that the members of Congress are returned that are actively involved to ensure, because if the Democrats get control, they're going to drop all of this investigation. They're not going to do anything on this investigation.
They'll cover up the biggest. This was about literally trying to steal a presidential election. They'll stop it all. I hope you do hold them in contempt. And if it means impeachment, then that must be done. Otherwise, no congressional subpoena will ever have any teeth to it, ever. It'll be the end of it. Mr. Chairman, thank you for being with us.
Just how badly were the feds out to get Donald Trump? And where does the House intelligence investigation stand now? Joining me to discuss that and more is the chair of the House Intelligence Committee, Republican Congressman Devin Nunes. All right, good evening, Congressman.
Judge, great to be with you.
Well, it's great to have you on tonight. You know, yesterday you sent yet another letter to Congressman Gowdy and Goodlatte asking that they question individuals openly in this continuing alleged Trump-Russia collusion investigation. And now it appears that your letter includes up to 42 letters, some of them from the executive office of President Obama, as well as the State Department and DOJ and FBI. What is different about your third letter?
Well, the third letter is about Fusion GPS and all the people that are in that realm of Fusion GPS that could have been involved handling the dossier, digging up the dirt, and feeding it into the FBI.
And right now, in terms of this information going to the FBI, it seems that you went from the initial, who paid for this dossier? What was it all about? And you seem to have gotten the answers to that. We know it was the DNC and Hillary Clinton, the Hillary Clinton campaign. But now the issue seems to be a little more fine-tuned. And that is, how did this dossier get from, the Clinton campaign and Steele to the FBI? Do you know what the answer to that is?
We don't know the answer to that. We think it could have come from many directions, right? So we know that one of John McCain's former staffers did it. We think that many people in the press had this and actually also gave it to the FBI. At the same time, Christopher Steele was supposedly working with the FBI. So there's lots of ways that it made it through. So what we're really asking for, though, is for these 42 people to be interviewed in public. I would suggest I can't control how they do the interviews and conduct the interviews, but I would think that they would want to do more deposition type. So let the Republicans ask an hour of questions of the witness at a time, then let the Democrats give them an hour. Have it be televised, because these 42 people really help us get to the bottom of, was Trump really colluding with Russia, or was this an orchestrated effort by the left, working with the FBI and DOJ to frame the president and many people involved to dig up dirt to start this investigation? Well, and that's why I think it would be helpful to have all this done in public.
Well, clearly in public, but when you talk about a deposition, that is somewhat different than the run-of-the-mill hearing where, the right gets up and says, I'm the greatest guy who ever lived and you're awful, or the left gets up and says, we're the greatest guys who ever lived and you're awful. You never get answers from these witnesses. It's almost like a circus. It's the same all the time. You think that a deposition will get into more in-depth information. Will it allow for the basis of a criminal predicate prosecution in the event that they lie?
Yeah, and I also believe, Judge, that there's a task force that the Oversight Committee and the Judiciary Committee have set up, made up of 5 Republicans and 5 Democrats. So let each one have an hour at a time to ask questions of these witnesses so that you don't get the grandstanding, you don't get the political speeches. I think that would be worth a lot more for not only the Congress, but ultimately the American people to understand what information each witness has that's relevant to this matter.
Okay, and you know, Congressman, one of the things that I find so fascinating is that the House, I believe it was last week, gave the Department of Justice until yesterday to give them information, this House resolution, or a deadline for DOJ and the FBI to come clean on the beginning of the Trump investigation, or as the FBI called it, Operation Hurricane. Do you know, number one, did Congress get any information from the FBI and DOJ? And number two, if they didn't, where are we with this?
Well, as always, we have to pound and pound and pound to get information from DOJ and FBI. They did give us a lot more information last week. We're expecting more information on Monday. But let me, you mentioned something about Crossfire Hurricane that we know was open July 31st. One of the key outstanding questions that we have is what actually happened before July 31st.
Okay, but
so
Congressman,
they seem to be playing these word games about this.
Hold on, Congressman, hold on. What I want to know now is if they don't give you that information, and maybe we can pull the Congressman back up, if they don't give you that information, what can you do to the FBI and DOJ? You've given them more deadlines. Now, we had yesterday they were supposed to give us stuff. Now, maybe Monday or Tuesday. This investigation's been going on for a year. At some point, don't you guys feel impotent?
Well, look, there's a couple things here. So before July 31st, for a couple months now, we've been really zeroing in on that. And the FBI and DOJ have had plenty of opportunities to tell us what happened before July 31st.
But they haven't.
They have not.
Right.
They have not. Now, ultimately here, the President of the United States, it's his DOJ and his FBI. And at some point here, he needs to get involved. And look, were there informants
you know what, Congressman, I don't want to go there yet. I don't want to go there yet. Here's the thing. You guys have oversight over the Department of Justice. I know you're intel. I get that. The American people have been watching this circus play out where you guys tell the DOJ and the FBI, we want these records. You then go through the charade, not you in particular, Congressman, of sending a letter and saying, we want this by Friday. You don't get it on Friday. Maybe we'll get it Monday or Tuesday. What my viewers want to know, what the American people want to know, with all due respect to you, and I don't think anyone has had more pushback than you, and for that I give you tremendous kudos. I really do. But it's almost as though Congress shouldn't even bother at this point. And we can talk about the president. But what do you have in terms of a sanction? Otherwise, you guys should be working on legislation.
Well, look, ultimately, we have the job of oversight, okay? They have to comply with us. They've slowly complied. And look, part of what we've uncovered here, let's not forget, it's Congress that's helped help uncover the dossier, the dirt, who paid for it. It's just been, look, when people are trying to hide this, like the Democratic Party and the Clinton campaign were trying to hide in conjunction with the FBI and DOJ didn't want the American public to know any of this. So we do have a few outstanding documents that they do need to give us. Okay, it's very, very important. So, you know, what steps do we have? Look, we have other steps we can take. We can hold in contempt. But at the end of the day here, we do need to know what happened before July 31st. That's what we're really trying to get to.
Right.
If you look at phase 3 of the investigation, like we talked about just a moment ago, having the 42 people come and testify, I think will be very powerful for the Congress and for the American people to have transparency and sunlight in this whole mess.
But what we're looking at on that full screen is the beginning of what the FBI and the DOJ says is the investigation into the President Trump. July 31, 2016, then candidate Trump. If FBI and DOJ, right where that middle line is, say that's when we began the investigation, and you now find out that a counterintelligence investigation was started against a presidential campaign a week after the guy gets a nomination to be Republican candidate for president, and in fact is before that, then we've got a counterintelligence at the level of a third world country.
That is correct. So I think any involvement, even in Crossfire Hurricane, of informants being paid to go into the Trump campaign is something that a red line that we've never crossed before. But what could be even worse is if there were informants that were being run into Trump and a Trump campaign and their associates before July 31st, which would be even worse. So this is why at the end of the day, we have to hold these hearings, we have to ask these questions, and ultimately, the President of the United States is going to have to declassify all this information so the American public knows exactly what the counterintelligence resources that we have in this country, what they were used for.
Why do you think the president is not? Why do you think the president is not declassifying?
You know, I don't know. The FISA is very frustrating to me because I think that pieces of the FISA that was got on Carter Page, right? That we've had an ongoing feud about this for many, many months. I think the FISA is totally fraudulent, 100% fraudulent. You have James Comey and others currently at the FBI and DOJ who are defending the FISA, which is unbelievable to me. So why not? The president ought to just solve this once and for all, declassify. You don't have to expose sources and methods, but most of that FISA, the pertinent parts of it, could be declassified, and he could help answer for all of us who was telling the truth. Right. Were they justified to get a FISA warrant on Carter Page or not? I don't think they were, and I think the American people have a right to know, and the president should declassify it.
All right. Congressman Devin Nunes, we'll see what the president does, although I suspect he's kind of waiting for you guys to use all of your powers. But it would certainly put an end to this ongoing investigation. But I want to thank you for all your efforts on behalf of getting out the truth and putting some sunlight into our government. Congressman Chairman Devin Nunes, thank you so much.